So they changed the way souls work, right? Now, even after 8 minutes, you can have 2 people on the lane and they get the same amount of money, right? Right? So what happens is, they also nerfed the creeps in the jungle, okay? So what happens is, you're just encouraged to be with one teammate at all times. Does that make sense? You always want to be on a lane. And you're more at the mercy of your teammates also, because your teammates need to wait until you're there so you can share the souls. Yeah, they're really bad changes, and I can explain to you why, okay? Because it reduces the amount of skill required for macro, first and foremost, because you don't have to think about where you want to be. You're just with anyone else on the map and you get money, basically, right? Like, as long as you're with one other person, you get the money. So that one doesn't matter. So that's stupid. And also, that is going to make characters that split push and 1v1 a lot worse. And the best split pusher and the best 1v1 in the game is Wraith. So what happens is, if I try to split push now, there's always 2 people in my face and I die, right? Or if I try to get a pick off, there's usually 2 people and I die for it. So it's an insane hard nerf to Wraith. And I'm not coping. I think Wraith is actually really bad right now, okay? Because I think a big part of the macro before was that you had to figure out where to be on the map, right? Like, there was a trade-off, right? You could either stack with your teammates and try to go for a kill, a team fight, or an objective, or you could decide to go solo and get more money. There was a trade-off. But now there's no trade-off anymore. There is no negative, like there's no downside to being with a teammate, which makes the game way easier and way worse, in my opinion. Because a big part of, like, I don't know if you guys, like, I don't know if you guys in chat have ever played League or Dota or other MOBAs. There was always a really high skill level to deciding if you want to solo farm or solo push, or if you want a team fight, right? There's a trade-off, and that trade-off doesn't exist anymore. In fact, the meta right now on high rank is everyone just waits on the lanes until there's a massive, like, 3 creep wave pushing in, like a triple creep wave. And then you have 2 people stacking on it and they farm, okay? And if you don't know what this means monetary-wise, by the way, but like if your teammates don't play that new macro game correctly, you can't do anything yourself, right? If I am in base and I'm looking for a new lane and my teammates are constantly pushing out the lanes, but the enemy is farming them together, that means the enemy team is going to go get ahead no matter what, right? So I think these changes are fucking terrible. I think they're really bad for the game. I think they make the game worse. And yes, I'm biased. I'm a Wraith main. Okay, it affects Wraith a lot, again. But like, there needs to be a trade-off for stacking. And now you don't have to think about it anymore, which is dumbing down the game. And I saw a really good post on Reddit, funnily enough. Okay, I'm not saying no hate on the Deadlock Reddit. There's some really bad takes in there, but there's a really good take. Deadlock is ruined by the last patch. I'll explain why. I'll go over it real quick, but like TLDR, you can read this entire thing. It's like a really good analysis on what the actual issues are, but I want to point a few out if I haven't mentioned them yet, okay? Whenever there's a large wave pushing you aside, you need to wait for a teammate to join to pick up the wave, and you will have like a 1,000 souls plus, right? If you if you farm it solo, right? One creep on average, let's say after 10 minutes, is like what? 95, 100, right? So if there's, do the math, if there's like 10 creeps pushing into you, that's 1,000 souls, right? So if anyone on your team, any of the 5 players, push out that wave alone and not together, your team loses 1,000 souls. Okay, that's how drastic it is. Think about it, right? So if you have one team doing this correctly and the other team is not doing it correctly, it's a loss. And by the way, like, that means you're being punished for playing solo. The punishment for playing solo in a game like Deadlock should be you get caught out and you die, right? You get ganked. But like, pushing out a lane, you get punished for pushing out a lane, that's silly. That's a really bad fucking way to play the game. I think it's terrible. And I think this guy brings up another really good point. This has made jungling effectively pointless, yeah. So if you do it correctly, since there's 4 lanes and 6 players, you can always have two players on one lane together, right? And the lanes give way more money than jungle creeps. So jungle is technically useless. So all that's happening here is people sitting together in lanes, soaking up double money. technically, the jungle is useless. The only time you should jungle now is if your team is playing it incorrectly. So the jungle is just like a band-aid fix for you not sharing souls with your team. And listen, I play on Ascendant/Eternus games, right? And even there's idiots pushing out the lanes. I played a few games off stream yesterday, and I was like coming. I was like, Infernus, wait for me, please. I want to soak the lane. And they pushed it out, and then I was left with no money, basically, even though there's no loss in him waiting 2 seconds, right? So you're at the mercy of your teammates. You don't have to think about what to do anymore. It's a terrible, terrible change for the game, I think, in my opinion. And I believe in the devs. I think they're going to fix this. But I'll definitely put this on YouTube. Like, I'm genuinely wondering what the positives of this are. I guess the idea of the devs was that they wanted to encourage team play more, right? Which is fair. There should be an incentive to team pushing. But the incentive was already getting objectives, right? And getting kills. And they did buff kill gold, by the way, right? Yeah, it makes games quicker. It's a terrible change. And I only figured this out yesterday. Because yesterday I really sat back, I didn't play. And I thought for an hour. And I was like, why does the game feel unfair sometimes? There's a few other points that he brings up. We'll go over it in a second. Yeah, jungle technically pointless, for the record, right? Jungle is technically pointless because if you play it correctly, you should have 6 players on 4 lanes, which ruins the entire MOBA aspect of the game, by the way, right? Like, I do hate people that AFK jungle, but if there's no trade-off for anything, split pushing also pointless, by the way, yes. Very fair point. Split pushing also pointless because there's probably going to be 2 people against you, and so you get punished way more for split pushing. And before there was this nice balance of like a few characters roaming a lot and trying to go for kills, right? Like Mo and Krill, like support characters roaming and carries farming. And then it was really nice if you got a pick off on a carry, right? And now it's just like everyone sits on the lane and like, yeah. And here's the next issue. Hero kill gold increased, right? Which sounds nice on paper until you realize that in late game, this is not the only gold you get for killing heroes. There's also this lead gold, right? Where if the enemy has more money than you, you get more comeback gold, right? And I've noticed this a lot the last 2 days, where I'm really far ahead and I'm playing really well and way better than the enemy for the entire game. And then I lose a single fight and they're even money. Yeah, there's comeback gold. Has always been in the game, right? So if you have more money than the enemy and you die, they get way more money from you, okay? The more money you have, the more safe you have to play. And I don't mind that. That's a good system. It's a system in any MOBA, I think. At least it's a system in Dota, right? So comeback gold is good. But they also increased the base kill bounty. So now, basically less punishment for being behind. And on high level at least, if you're like 20, 30k behind, you can definitely int for someone and kill them, right? So what happens is, what you can do is, you're behind, you focus the hard carry on the other team, like the person that has the most money. They will probably die, you lose 2 people for it, but suddenly you have more money. Or suddenly you gain more money in that fight than the enemy. It's very stupid, in my opinion, and I don't want to sound drastic because I think the devs are going to fix this, but I really hope they reconsider this. And I know they're experimenting a lot, but this is really unhealthy for the game. It lowers the skill gap. And it makes it so you're more at the mercy of your team, which sounds nice on paper. It's a team game. Why would I want to play a MOBA game, where there's no jungle, basically, and I have to like wait for my teammate so I can push a creep wave, and where I get punished for split pushing, and where I get punished for playing alone? I might as well go back to Overwatch when you want to fight a 6 the entire time, or 5, right? Again, I'll link this thread in the comments. He has some really fucking good solutions. But like, his main thing is it has to be split, right? Outside of laning and farming. Dual farming. New patch out fixing this issue? When? Wait, did it just fix it? There's no shot? And that's the difference. That is the difference between Valve devs and Overwatch devs. Soul sharing ratios reduced. From 166 to 175. Okay, so it's an in-between. This doesn't matter. The more important numbers are the first 2. So 100 is basically being on the lane solo. So now you only get 75% if you're duo. I'm down for this for now. For now. We'll have to see how it plays. It might still turn out that it's still better to be on lane together, right? Before patch, it was 50. 50. After 8 minutes, 50. Now it's 75. Souls for 2 people is now 75%, so jungle and solo pushing might be more valuable again. We'll have to see though, because keep in mind they also nerfed the jungle money farm, right? Like they nerfed jungle creeps, so jungle creeps are worse than before. Also, this is still not gonna solve the other issue we just talked about, which is heroes giving too much gold, in the late game at least. Shadow transformation, bullet and spirit resist reduced from 60 to 50, okay. Shadow transformation heal reduced from 30 to 25. Shadow transformation duration reduced from 6 to 5.5. Paradoxical swap time increased to help with camera, okay. It's a day-night difference. Like, when Overwatch fucks something up, they keep it fucked for at least a month, and then they somehow, like, slightly fix it, and it's still an issue for the rest of the lifespan of the game, you know? Your grandpa doesn't care about your holiday.